second how that will be different. But for the time being, as I want to play this level leisurely, I'm gonna select sandbox. And in fact, if you want to just have a look, maybe practice the scenario before trying it out as an assessment, I would suggest you click on sandbox, because it's a very relaxing way of playing the scenario. There is no time limit, there is no objective that might put you in game over state. You just play at your own pace. We have a very interesting scenario here with a lot of interesting dialogues. As we have seen before, have a look at these dialogues. They put a little bit of context around the economic problem. But I will skip all of this. I don't want to spoil the surprise. And I'm just gonna get to the core of this scenario, where we're gonna learn the economic concepts. Here we are. I want to just put a little bit of storytelling to explain the situation here. We've got a worker that would really like to go and produce raspberries, but there is no entrepreneur, there is no firm that would allow them to get a job and produce. We have seen what are the factors of production in the economy, and it's really important to have a firm for the economy.
So this is the main story, and you are a person in this case that is actually interested in the happiness of society, and we are
keeping this scenario to be about the happiness of society, because this is really what an economist should be doing. They should be thinking of ways to make society happier, wealthier, better off. So for a second, let's focus on this objective, happiness of society. You can find the amount of happiness per capita right up here. Oh, the music just popped in, which is a great opportunity for me to show you how I can reduce the volume. I can just control it from here by clicking on the settings and then audio. So do that if you want to lower the volume or even get rid of it. Very well. As I was saying, this is the happiness per capita in your society. The objective in this level is to maximize the happiness per capita. So when you add additional people to your society, of course your society is gonna get more happy, because you are just adding factors of production, and so expanding the production possibilities of your economy. But here we want to think about how well a society is doing in the sense of the happiness per capita, happiness divided by the number of people that you have. So we want essentially everybody in society to be happy, and we want to use this metric for the rest of the course, because that's the important one. We don't want to have a society with 1 billion people that generates some happiness, because that's not a good indication of how happy each individual is. So we want to divide this total happiness by the number of people in the economy. And that's your objective here, to maximize the happiness per capita. And you can see down here that here is our benchmark. So over time, this is the benchmark that we have to fulfill. If you play in easy mode, this benchmark is set by us, the developers, and your objective is gonna be to catch up with this benchmark and always be above it. If you fall below by the end of this time period, then your game will be over. You did not catch up with the benchmark fast enough. If you play in hard mode, that benchmark is going to be determined by the best performance of the best student that has played this level so far. Now, I am in sandbox, so I don't have to worry about any of this. I can just play leisurely, and no matter how I compare with the benchmark, either the developer benchmark or other students benchmark, I will be able to continue even if I underperform. Again, this is a good way to explore the level the first time, at least, in my opinion. Very well, so the issue here is that we have some demand and we are lacking a firm. Our objective is not necessarily to maximize the happiness of producers or consumers. We want to maximize the happiness of everybody. the happiness of society per capita. Let me have a look at this UI for a second on the left, because it's a new one that we just introduced for this level. We are introducing markets. We have two of them. We have this market for labor and the market for red berries. And you can see that we have in each market a certain amount of demand, in this, supply. In this case, this particular worker is willing to offer 10 units of worker effort. That's the labor market, and that's the supply of worker effort. But there is nobody demanding the effort of this worker. There is nobody that is interested in hiring this worker. So you can see supply is 10, demand is 0. In the other market, though, of red berries, it's the opposite. Supply, there are no producers of red berries, but this worker would really, really love to consume red berries. He would like to consume 16 of them. In this particular level, then we have too much supply in the labor market and too much demand in the red berry market. I want to introduce at this point a little bit of theory because I think it's important to get there. So first question is, what is a market? In economics, we define market for a given good or service as the set of all the consumers and suppliers who are willing to buy and sell that good or service at a given price. So a market is basically made of people. All those who demand and all those who offer that good in the market. So in the labor market, which is, let me just write it here. In the labor market, we have we have a supplier, which is this guy here, and we have in this case, no producer. So we have someone who is demanding, but we have no firm supplying, okay? So this is the first market. The second market, the red berry market, is made by someone who is demanding. Sorry, this is wrong. So we have someone offering, so supply, we have our worker supplying labor, but there is no firm demanding labor. So the market is incomplete at this point. In terms of red berry, we have our worker demanding red berries, but no firm supplying. This is also a first look at the circular model of the economy, because you have that households which are represented in this game literally as a house. So this house belongs to these two characters, the consumer and the worker. The worker goes to work and the consumers, so they are a household, they live together. The worker goes to work and the consumer is actually in charge of buying the goods from the market. So they are in the red berries market, they are the demand side of the market. But in the labor market, they are the supply because they are actually supplying labor. So this is the classic circular model where, in this case, the household offers labor in one market and demand blueberries in the other. And the firm demand labor in one market and offer red berries in the other. Very well. This is a definition of a market. It's important to remember a market is made of people. In this case, we've got a partial market because we are lacking a firm to complete the cycle. How do we get the firm spawned in? Well, this wizard is going to explain this to you, and I'm going to let you go through the tutorial. But in a nutshell, this is how you do it. You place down, you click on the shop here, and you can ask now to click on the plot tab up here, and you can ask now someone to join the village by actually clicking this flag. You can place down a plot as this description explains. And in this particular case, you don't have a lot of choice. When the game becomes more complex, you will be able to choose among multiple type of people that you can invite into your economy. But to start with, you only have this producer of red berries. You can see its simple location presented here, and you can read a little bit about them down here. So I'm going to say yes, I want to assign this team, and then I can place it on the ground. This will finally spawn an entrepreneur, which may get our economy started. So in order to start, we can have a chat with him, and he's going to tell us that he is in need of some factors of production in order to get started. Before we get into the factors of production issue, I would like to touch on this market 1 second more. Let me put back my iPad. This is, as it's depicted in the game at this moment, what we call a perfectly competitive market. Why is it a perfectly competitive market? Well, consumers and suppliers are price takers. They are taking the price as given, and they have no ability to change it in any way whatsoever. For example, let me show you what I mean by that. Have a look at this price here, $5 for a worker, for 1 unit of effort that a worker is putting into production, and $3 for each red berry. These prices are not decided neither by the worker nor by the entrepreneur. They are just fixed. We're going to start with fixed prices because it's the best way to understand the optimal production decision. In real life, prices could change, but in this case, we just keep them fixed. But most importantly, the worker, the households, and the entrepreneurs cannot affect the market price, so they are price taker. The goods are homogeneous. Yeah, everybody is producing the same good, which in this case is just red berries. They're all the same. There are no way for a producer to make their product special in any way whatsoever. There are no externalities, meaning neither production nor consumption has no negative effect or positive effect on people around. If you eat a red berry, that's not going to have any effect on any other, nobody else in the population. Similarly, production doesn't have a negative effect on anyone or positive. There are examples in real life where, for example, smoking a cigarette, second smoke could be considered a negative externality. You are consuming a cigarette yourself, but you're also producing a cost for other people by doing that. Sometimes productive activities, they can have a negative impact on society through pollution. In this level, we don't have externalities, so we are good. We are respecting what the characterization of a perfectly competitive market is. Goods are excludable and rival. This means that excludable means that you can prevent the consumers from using the good. If the producer doesn't want to sell the good to a consumer, they can do so. So it's excludable, can be excluded, and also they are rival. If the household eats 1 red berry, there is 1 less red berry that can be eaten by the population. If you think about fireworks instead, they would break both these assumptions here of excludability and rivalry, because fireworks are not rival. The fact that I enjoy them doesn't prevent you from enjoying them. And then also they are non-excludable because they are up in the sky. Everybody can look at them. There is no way to stop people from enjoying them. They just have to raise their head and look above. So there are examples of important goods in our economy that are non-excludable and non-rivalrous. However, in this level, red berries clearly can be excluded and also are rivalrous. If you eat them, somebody else won't be able to eat that particular red berry that you consumed, obviously. Very well, and finally, we're assuming there is full information. The information that you see here, the prices, demand, and supply, all this is available to all the players in the economy. Every single agent has the same information, and it's full, perfect information. Very well. Now, free entry and exit. People can, like our firm, can easily enter or exit the market. Nobody is forced to stay in. all together, all these characteristics are defining what a perfectly competitive market is. And in this particular level, as you can see, what we have presented here as the red berry market, in fact, satisfies all those assumptions. Fantastic. This is the perfectly competitive market in action. Let me close my iPad for a second. Now, when we look at the entrepreneur here, he's still asking us to do something for him. He's asking us to get him a storage barrel and a tray table in order to produce the good. Now, how we're going to do this is by clicking the shop again down here, then clicking production, and placing down the fixed factors that he's asking us to place down. For example, I can put down a barrel. This is going to be like a storage, and then the entrepreneur is asking me, okay, now put down a tray table. Notice that when I click on them, I get a description. A storage barrel is required to store items before they are placed for sale. And a tray table is required to sell items. Right-click on the cash register to learn information about sales. Left-click to place objects, but only if you own this shop. And in this case, you're not really owning the shop. You're just inviting this entrepreneur in your economy. Now, before I put down these elements, actually, let me put down this one here at the entrance of my location. Now the entrepreneur is saying, this is all good, I need red berry shrubs. Once you place one, I'll start production. Each red berry shrub increases my maximum output by 1. Actually, every single red berry shrub is increasing your production by exactly 1 unit. So if I put down 1 shrub, this is essentially telling the entrepreneur to produce 1 red berry. If I put down 2 shrubs, we are going to produce 2 red berries. This is your way to suggest to the entrepreneur here how much to produce. And this is the core of what we're going to look at in this specific level, the production decision of a simple firm. In order to really dig into that, let's have a look at the production function that you can see in here. Okay, I'm going to click on this, on the red berry, and now I can see the recipe to produce 1 red berry. I need 1 worker. This is the input of production. 1 worker, and given the market price for one worker, this means $5. The output is going to be 1 red berry that I can sell at $3. You can see here the price. If I want to produce more red berries, I can click and have a look at what is going to be the production level as I increase production. So for example, for the second red berry, I need 2 workers. And you can see that I would sell 2 red berries, making $6. It would cost me a total of $10 though, because I need to hire 2 workers. So we need to be careful here and start thinking about what are the costs and benefits of increasing production. Also, at this point, I'm gonna reopen my iPad 1 second, and I'm gonna talk for just a minute about the supply curve of a firm, and in particular, what we define as factor of production, variable factor of production. It's a factor of production where the cost tends to vary with the quantity produced. In this example, we have only 1 factor of production, which is the worker, and clearly the cost varies with the quantity produced. If I want to produce 1 red berry, it's going to cost me 1 worker or $5. If I want to produce 2 red berries, it's going to cost me $10. So as I produce more, I have to pay more. So this is a variable factor of production. Labor, in this example, is a variable factor of production. And the cost of this, the cost of paying wages, is called a variable cost, the cost associated with the variable factor of production. We also potentially have factors of productions that are fixed. Their cost does not vary with the quantity that is produced. Now, in this particular example, the barrel here and the trade table here are fixed factors of production. Let me close this 1 second so you can see where I was pointing with my mouse. So the barrel and the cash register here are fixed factor of production. You don't need more cash registers or more barrels as you produce more. You need these fixed factors. You just need one of them, and then you can increase the quantity that you produced without really needing to increase the amount of these fixed factors. Any cost associated with these fixed factors is called a fixed cost. In our example here, it's here a fixed cost, which is a cost associated with a fixed factor of production. In this case, these are coming for free. You could just, if you remember, I just took them from the shop at no cost, placed them on the ground. So the fixed costs in this model are actually equal to 0. But potentially, later on, we will see that they might be expensive to put together these fixed factors of production. In that case, the fixed cost might actually be positive and have an impact on the productive decision in some way. Very well. We are actually making a lot of progress here, identifying what the market is. This is specifically a perfectly competitive market. What are the factors of productions? We have identified these ones as fixed factors and the workers as variable factors of production. Now the next step, what we miss, is try to think about what would be the optimal choice for the entrepreneur. Very well, the way we do this kind of choices is using the same approach we used in the previous levels of the game. We are going to have a look at the marginal benefit and the marginal cost of producing. The marginal benefit of producing a certain unit of a given good is the extra benefit accrued producing that unit. In this particular case, the extra benefit for the entrepreneur is actually how much money they make by selling the good on the market. The marginal cost of producing a certain unit of a given good is the extra cost of producing that unit. The relevant term, of course, here is, again, the opportunity cost. We need to look at the opportunity cost, not just the absolute cost. All right, let's have a look in this particular case. What does marginal benefit and marginal cost actually mean in this particular example? Now, for example, let's adopt the cost-benefit principle. A little look at this again. It's the same approach that we used before, but just as a recap, the cost-benefit principle tells you compare the marginal benefit of an action with the marginal cost and take the action only if the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost or equal. In this case, we may think, should I produce one extra red berry? So I look at this and I wonder, should I go from 1 to 2 red berries? Now, what I want to calculate in terms of marginal cost here is the increase in total cost when we produce one extra red berry. So one red berry is going to cost me $5 because I'm hiring one person to produce it. If I switch to 2 red berries, the cost has now increased to $10. I might actually use my slides here to show this concept. So I'm going to just zoom in right here, right there, very well. And I'm just going to look at this. So the first, when I go from one unit, the cost was $5. So that was the total cost. I'm going to call it TC. So the TC was $5 to produce the first unit. If I produce the second unit, the total cost goes up to $10, as you can see on the screen. Very well. Now, this is how you compute the marginal cost. You just take the difference between the change in total cost to produce that extra unit. So the change in total cost in this case is equal to $5. So the marginal cost of producing the first unit is gonna be, so sorry, the second unit, because we are looking at how we go from producing 1 unit to 2 units, right? That's what we're doing. So the marginal cost here is gonna be $5. And you may want to compare that with the marginal revenue. The marginal revenue, or MR, is actually defined here as the amount of money you make by selling a red berry. Because the price is fixed, each red berry is $3, then the marginal revenue is gonna be $3 no matter how many of them you are selling. Each red berry is gonna give you $3. And there is a lot of demand, as you can see, 16 units. So at the moment, there is plenty of demand. No need to worry about limited demand. Each sale that you make brings in $3. So the marginal revenue is actually $3 for any additional units that you're selling. So I'm gonna make this table a little bit longer to add a third and a fourth. And I want to make a little point here without giving away too much, without really solving the exercise for you. I want to give you a little bit of a hint on how to approach this. If we go to the third unit, you're gonna see that again, the total cost is now going up to $15. You basically are requiring 1 worker to produce 1 extra red berry so far. And so the total cost increases from 5 to 10 to 15 because each worker costs you $5. So the change in total cost is again 5. And this is again the marginal cost, what I should put in the marginal cost column. Now for the fourth one, let's have a look at the fourth one. For the fourth one, that's where the production function becomes a little more interesting. To produce the fourth red berry, you don't need to hire any more workers. 3 workers can as well produce 3 units or 4. They actually can produce more than 3 units if they want during the day. They can produce 4. Hence, if you want to produce the 4th unit, you don't have to increase the total cost. The total cost now becomes constant. Oh, that's interesting. This means that the change in total cost is $0. It costs you nothing in terms of marginal cost to go from 3 to 4, because when you hire 3 workers, they can produce 3 units, but also easily produce 4. Very well. The marginal revenue is always $3 because at each unit you can sell for $3. Let's have a look at the 5th, and then maybe I'm gonna stop here because I don't want to give up too much. But let's say the 5th one, you're gonna see, if I click here, you're gonna see that the 5th unit can also be produced only using 3 workers. So again, the marginal cost is equal to 0 here. So this sounds like an interesting part of the production function. And now zooming out a little bit more, if you increase production of red berry even further, that's when you can see that the number of workers starts to increase again. If you want to produce 6 red berry, now you need to hire another worker. And if you want to produce 7 red berries, you have to hire another worker, 5 of them now. And if I go to 8, again, I need to hire 8 workers. If I want to produce 9 red berries, I need to hire 13 workers. This is becoming really expensive. If I want to produce 10, I'm gonna have to hire 20 of them. And you can see that the more I produce red berries, the higher it is the extra number of workers required, and so the higher the marginal cost. This means that this also captures something that happens in the real world. Even though at the beginning the marginal cost may be decreasing, as you can see here, the marginal cost was decreasing from 5 constant and then decreasing to 0. There's gonna be a point where the marginal cost eventually is gonna increase, just because if you have so many workers all squished in that little plot, they're gonna tend to get in each other's way, and they're gonna tend to limit the productivity, each other's productivity. And at that point, in order to produce more, you need to hire even more people, but hiring more people makes that congestion even worse, and so make productivity at the margin even lower. So yes, hiring more people gets you more product, but less and less extra product, which forces you to compensate by hiring more and more people. The result of this is that you're going to have that increasing marginal cost, which we discussed in week 1, sooner or later kicking in to an effect in your economy. Well, now that you have seen and we have been through all these steps, I hope you can see that the decision here is going to be, as usual, a cost-benefit decision where you are going to continue to increase production as long as the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost. You should do it. So try with 1 blueberry, 2 blueberries, 3 blueberries, and compare. Every time you want to increase production by 1, compare the marginal benefit and the marginal cost. And if the marginal benefit is higher, then go for it. Produce. But there's going to be a point where probably producing more and more is just going to get so costly for the firm that it's better not to do it. I want to maybe attract your attention before skipping to the next scenario on the UI at the bottom of the screen. This UI is actually capturing everybody that is forming your economy at this part of the game. We have the producer here and the worker. These are households, the worker, and entrepreneur, the producer. So these are the two components of your economy. If I click on the card here, it's going to flip it for me, and it's going to show me how much money the producer has to support their company to begin with, which is $25, and also how much happiness the entrepreneur is actually gaining period after period. We also have a similar thing for the worker. We can see how much money the worker has to spend in consumption. If I click one more time, here I'm going to see, as soon as I'm done setting the production location for the entrepreneur, I'm going to see how many workers is the entrepreneur hiring. And for the worker, if I click one more time, I can see what would be the number of blueberries that they would like to purchase via their consumer agent. You can see it's the demand of red berries, right? This is how much they're demanding. You can also see how much happiness that would give them. Remember, your objective is to increase the happiness per capita in your economy to catch up with this red line. I've done very poorly. As you can see, my yellow line is very low. So far, not so good. If I click again on the worker, you're going to see here how the worker is allocating his time. We are not going to talk at this stage about leisure and work decisions. We're just going to assume that this worker wants to work all the time. So the entire schedule is devoted to produce red berry if he could find some employment, which at the moment he hasn't been able to find. Fantastic. These are the main elements that you have to look at. And this pile of money represents how much money they have, relatively speaking. In this moment, these piles are exactly the same because they all have $25 to begin with. So let's have a look at what happens if I start this economy. One way to pause the game so that you can make a good production decision is to click this pause button here. I click this pause button and now time is frozen. You can make all the decisions regarding this entrepreneur with time paused without having to worry about starting production, triggering the market right away. The entrepreneur is now asking to put down the red berry shrub so that they can start production. And each red berry shrub increases my maximum output by 1. You have to make up your mind, select which one of these values.
Let's say that I decide that I think it's a good idea to produce only 2 red berries. All right. Well,
I'm gonna pause time, gonna go into the shop and place down 2 shrubs. This is telling the entrepreneur, suggesting the entrepreneur to produce 2 units. If I want to delete those, I can click this button and delete the items. If I think it was too much, for example, or I can place new one. Just toggle this one like this. Very well. Fantastic. Now that we are in this situation, let's have a look at what happened in the market when I unfroze time. Very well, so I'm gonna unfroze time. Production has happened. You can see the circular economy is working. We have hired the worker and we have had money going to the worker. Now you're gonna see here that the consumer is consuming the red berries. So money that goes from the consumer, from the worker to the entrepreneur. Here, the entrepreneur just hired the worker. So money going to the worker and labor going to the entrepreneur. Now let's see, the consumer is going, buying the product, so red berries to the household and money back to the entrepreneur. You can see here that the entrepreneur is producing 2 units because there are 2 shrubs on the floor here. And also see that there is a little bit of demand for labor. The entrepreneur is now demanding 2 units of labor, of effort, and that's what this worker is producing. I'm gonna kill the audio again. There you go. Very well. So is our economy going well? Is this the maximum that we could achieve? Is this the optimal decision of the entrepreneur that maximizes the profit? Is profit maximization good for society? These are all very, very important questions at the heart of economics. Oops, something's happening here. Our entrepreneur ran out of money. They don't have enough money to produce, to hire 2 workers. Oops, it looks like I just bankrupted my entrepreneur. My decision was not good. Well, one thing that I could do now is just get rid of one of the shrubs, and the entrepreneur would continue to produce at this point because they had enough money to hire just 1 worker. Let's see what happens next. The cycle goes on. They have $7, which sounds good. So they should be able to hire another worker the next time. Yep, they did. But how long this will last, who knows? You can see in the graph, we have a very nice little graph, the black graph underneath the money. And you can see that over time, see how it decreased here? If you follow you gotta have to zoom into or maybe maximize the YouTube video. But this is capturing the trend of your money. And it's not looking especially good. You can also see here the trend of happiness in society. It was going pretty well, and then it plummeted because we are now producing less red berries. And the GDP also went down quite heavily when we were not able to produce. So see, for many cycles here we are not producing because the entrepreneur has run out of money. And you can see that the GDP is hitting 0 here. Happiness is also hitting 0. So we are having a hiccup a little bit. And there is no other choice for my producer now to get rid of this shrub, and that really leaves him bankrupted completely. He doesn't have enough money. You can check, in fact, $3. He doesn't have enough money to even pay for a worker. The economy has ended. This entrepreneur came in with some funds, and I didn't make a good production decision. They ran out of money. And now the economy is stuck again at 0, and our GDP is stuck again here. Very well. This is a quick look at this level where we talked about markets. This is an example of a perfectly competitive market. We have talked about the production function of this entrepreneur. We have looked at the total cost and how to derive the marginal cost and how to think about the cost-benefit principle applied to this. Let me just wrap up by talking about a couple of extra points. Economic surplus, just the definition of it so we can have a common language. Economic surplus in economics is defined as the difference between the marginal benefit and the marginal cost of taking an action. The economic surplus is the difference between the marginal benefit, the price at which I'm selling the good, and the marginal cost, the cost of producing that extra good. Evidently, the economic surplus in my playthrough must have been negative. I was losing money, which means that the extra revenue that I was making on each individual red berry was not greater than the extra cost that I was paying for each red berry, and that determined a loss in money and negative profit that basically made me bankrupt at the end of my playthrough. If the economic surplus is positive in this case, it's more likely that instead I'm making money because the marginal revenue at which I'm selling is greater than the marginal cost. Remember though that the marginal cost does not capture the fixed factor because it captures only the change in cost, in total cost. So we're going to have, whenever we have real fixed cost, to also worry about that. In this level, we don't have fixed costs, so we don't have to worry about it. And we can just say that, yes, a positive economic surplus would have meant that my entrepreneur was actually making positive profit and getting more and more money each cycle. Instead, the opposite happened in my playthrough. And finally, let's in fact more specifically define what profit is the difference between the total revenues and the total cost. If you look at the recipes again, the difference between the total cost, which for the first red berry is 5, and total revenue, which by selling one red berry you will get $3, the profit in this case would be the total revenue, $3 minus the total cost, $5, so the profit would be negative -2 in this example. Now, if you find the quantity of red berries that is maximizing your profit, then you have found the quantity supplied, what we define as quantity supplied in economics. Quantity supplied is not any quantity, it's the quantity that maximizes the profit. Clearly, the quantity that I discovered 2 red berries is not the quantity that maximizes the profit of the supplier. In fact, I was losing money and I ended up bankrupt at the end of the level. If you find the quantity supplied at various prices and you put all those quantities supplied together, for example, find the optimal quantity when the price is 3, and then also find the optimal quantity when the price of red berries is 4, and then find the optimal quantity when the price of red berries is 5, and so on and so forth, you would have obtained your supply curve. The relationship between the price of a good and the quantity supplied. Remember, quantity supplied is not any quantity, it's the quantity that maximizes the profit of the entrepreneur. So if you find the optimal quantity that the entrepreneur should produce to maximize their profit for each possible price of the red berry, you would have obtained not just the quantity supplied for one price, but for the entire distribution of prices. For example, you could have found a curve that looks like this. I don't want to spoil too much, but as I was saying, if you put the price in here and the quantity here, in our case, the quantity, the price was $3 for the red berries. If you find the optimal quantity, this point here, this quantity that you found, the optimal one, is the quantity supplied and is part of the supply curve. If you try to do a counterfactual experiment and think about what would be the optimal quantity that I should produce if the price of red berry were instead $1, this other quantity that you would find would also be the quantity supplied for this specific market price, and then this would be another point in your supply curve. This is all for this particular scenario. It sounds simple. There are only workers and one producer. Super simple, but it encapsulates a lot of the concepts that are important in economics. And one thing that I want to really stress is that the objective of this level is to maximize the happiness of everyone in the economy, not just the profit of the entrepreneur. So one question is going to be, is an entrepreneur that maximizes profit producing the quantity that is best for society overall? Because remember, this is your objective: maximize happiness per capita of your own economy. Is a selfish entrepreneur that thinks only about maximizing their profit really gonna help society? Or is it gonna be better if we suggest him to be less selfish and not really maximize their profit? This is a question that I'm gonna leave for you. It's a deep one, it's a very important one. If you look around you, this could really affect how we think about our society. Should we let people go after their own selfish interest and maximize their profit? Or should the government try to change that? In this scenario, you can, because you can literally influence production of the entrepreneur in the pursuit of total happiness in the economy. So good luck with that. And let me know in the comment section in the ebook, or send us an email. We are looking forward to hearing what you think about this problem and how you approach this level. Moving